you enjoyed our cruise in the 914. So now that I finished the video, I realize probably haven't told you hardly anything about the car. So this car is a 1972 Porsche 914. It would have originally come with a 1.7, and now it has a 2-liter from a 73. So a little history on the car here is kind of cool, and it's the reason you see these names here. So this car belonged to my dad's cousin. His name was Chuck Schubert, lived here in Jacksonville, and it was his car in the early 70s. I don't think he was the original owner, but he had it for a little while. So he and my dad, Rick, are actually the ones that did the flares and got it painted. They built a big bore motor out of the 1.7 for it, and they did all kinds of stuff to it. Put the really wide wheels on it. It was a super cool car, did all the body work, and Chuck drove it around for a couple of years. As best I can tell, sometime around 1976, that's the last plate, that's the last inspection sticker, the car went off the road. The story, Chuck has passed away, so we don't have that information from him firsthand. The story is he blew the motor up, got tired of it, and sold it. So Chuck sold it to his uncle, which was my grandfather, Wayne. So Wayne had the car, he took it apart, he was getting ready to fix it. He boxed everything up, labeled it. He was an airline pilot, so he was a super detail-oriented guy. And so he had the car next. So you've got Chuck, you've got Wayne, and then Wayne, my grandfather, sold it to the gentleman who owned or worked at the local parts store. We have a local bumper-to-bumper chain called Arlington Auto Parts. My grandfather, my father, me, my child, we've all gone shop there. That's who we buy our parts from. I'll drive across town to go to those guys. So the gentleman who was in the family that owned the store got the car. He tells me that was about 80, 82, 84. And so he took the car, messed with it a little bit, got the trans looked at. The person who worked on the trans was not super familiar with 914s and put it together like a 911. And so when I got the car eventually, it had 5 reverse gears and 1 forward gear. The ring and pinion had been on the wrong side for a mid-engine car compared to a rear-engine car. So he never did more than drive around the parking lot, park it in a building next to the auto parts store. That building was really cool. It was a drive-through car wash. There was the 914, some jet skis, a Baja bucket, he had all kinds of cool stuff in there. And my dad has always known that this gentleman had the car. I didn't know about it until around 2004, 2005. When I was in high school, I saw the 59 Hurley car at a Cub Scout event. That was it. I wanted a 914 from then on, and that was the car for me. So I've been after this car for a long time, and my dad would tease me and a buddy of mine about 914s. And he said, I know where one is. He wanted us to, run a certain time in track or some goal that we were trying to achieve. And he said, if you get that, I'll take you. We got to the place where we'd achieved whatever goal he wanted us to, and he takes us to the car. I had no idea where it was. He goes, I know who somebody who's got it, takes us to the auto parts store. At that point, I was, 16, 17. I didn't even know that building existed. I didn't know that was his. I didn't know anything about it. He goes, oh, come next door. Okay. Go next door, Baja Bug, this, sitting inside. So I actually have some pictures that I took of the car in 2003, 2004 on a very early digital camera that took floppy disks. So I have a couple of pictures of me in high school checking out the car, just looking at it, and those have been the pictures I've had for the last almost 15 years of the car. I never asked him to go in there and see it again too often. It was really difficult to get in there. He was a busy guy, so I didn't bother him with that. So after a couple of projects passed through the garage, I said, it's time for the Porsche. And Jeff, the gentleman who owned it, had always kept it. He'd always kept it for me. He said, it needs to go back to your family. It needs to go to you guys. And every now and then I go in there and he goes, you ready for that Porsche? No, yes, however it is. So in 2017, I bought the Porsche back from him. So we've got my dad's cousin, my grandfather, and me are the 3 family members that have owned the car. My dad's done a lot of work on it both with me and originally. So here's a picture of the car as it was back in the day with a really cool, really funny front air dam, which I kind of have cut off. And here's a couple pictures that I took when I saw it the first time in the early, 2003, 2004 kind of time. So this car is, to my opinion, pretty well true to being a survivor as the way it looks. At some point, there was some bodywork done on the fenders, especially some filler on the other side, but I don't know if it hit a tree or slid or what. I don't have any of those details, but this is how I got it and this is how I like it. The only thing I've done is paint the hood and kind of sticker it up a little bit. The wheels that are on it are made by a company called Jackman. They made desert racing wheels, like big truck wheels. They made Baja buggy stuff. They made sand rail wheels, and they're extremely overbuilt for this car. They have like a 1/4 inch stamped steel solid center welded to the rim. They are not the knockoff of what you see like a wagon wheel. These are the original wagon wheel. And so they are 9s in the back, 8s in the front. And so it's kind of like somebody would have built a dune buggy out of a 914. So that is the way I took it. It was how would your Southern California or your Florida guy have built a dune buggy rally 914 before that was a really big deal. So it was kind of a dune buggy wheel, so we went with that. Dune buggies have KC lights, in my opinion. They have super trap mufflers. They run cool old school 70s 60s hot rod desert guy stuff, and that's the way I've done it. That's why I've got 4 daylighters on the front. That's why I really don't want to get rid of the Jackman wheels, even though they are excessively heavy, and that's the deal with the car. So as far as the setup goes, when I got the car, I put a new brake system in it, 914 rubber master cylinder, the 911 size master cylinder, rebuilt the calipers, new brake lines, stainless fuel lines. All the suspension is being rebuilt, new shocks, new bushings, all poly hard stuff. It's got sway bars on it that I took off a parts car. It's got an exhaust that I made from scratch. I had an issue with the 1.7 that was in it when I got it. It spun the Woodruff key and just totally ruined the crankshaft. And so that came out. I was lucky enough to find a parts car that had more parts in value than it did to the value to the guy. It was a really rusty car, but it had a lot of good stuff. So I put the 2-liter, I put the fuel injection in here. I parted it out to a couple other guys putting their 914s together. So that one died to put 4 or 5 cars on the road. So the wheels went to Texas, the bumpers went to North Carolina, the door handles went to Washington. The tub stayed with a guy locally here that had 3 or 4 of them. He was trying to put a good one together. So this car is just a fun little driver car. It's not super powerful. It's not super fast. Corner's great. It's fun for an autocross or a mountain run. It makes a cool noise and it's loud. And so this is a car that's going to be around for a long time. If you guys have questions about the car, let me know. Don't forget you can follow us on Instagram. Barefoot Garage Jacks is Instagram for us. In between episodes, we got lots more coming. If you can pay attention here, you'll see this video is filmed over 4 or 5 or 6 different occasions. The parts up on Jacks, we're going to get a new fuel pump. The fuel pump's a little bit weak, so we're going to do new pump, new filter, some new lines, move the pump to the front to prevent some issues, run some heat wrap. So we'll have a video on some upgrades to the 914 coming soon. See you guys later.